Hello, and welcome to another video in the Navigating the Windows Environment with a Screen Reader series. Today we're going to focus on working within File Explorer using tabs and having different instances of File Explorer open to accomplish a few different tasks. Before we get started, just a quick reminder that though we are going to use JAWS for Windows as our screen reader today, you can use whatever screen reader that you are most comfortable with that works within the Windows environment. All of the processes and commands that we're going to use today are completely Windows-based. Please keep in mind that any tutor messages or screen reader feedback that you will get from your screen reader may differ from what you hear in the videos, even if you are using JAWS for Windows. This is because you might have some settings set up that are different than I have mine set up for me. So now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. I have an instance of Windows File Explorer open right now, and I'm focused on our test folder that we have used in previous videos. As you might recall, it has two folders. One is called Animals, the second is called Plants. Inside Animals are various other folders and subfolders, but Plants is a new folder that we created in one of our previous videos. There are also two other Microsoft Word files here as well. I want to talk to you about the difference between having a different File Explorer window open and a File Explorer tab. We touched on this when we looked at the tabs area of File Explorer in a previous video, but it's worth going over again. Let's talk about how to open different instances of File Explorer and the differences between them. When we press Windows E to open File Explorer, it always opens automatically to our default landing page. But there are other ways to open tabs and windows in File Explorer. One example is to press Control-N when File Explorer is open. I'm going to do that now.
Control-N. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected animals not checked. 7/27/2026 4:24 p.m. file folder 1 of 4.
This opens a new window of File Explorer, and I'm focused in the same folder that I was focused in before. So that is the test folder. I can also open a new tab in File Explorer. I'm going to do that now by pressing Control plus the letter T, or Tango for tab.
Control-T. Not selected. Archived. Not checked. 1 of 145.
This new tab opens on my default landing page, no matter what window I am focused in. Now, I'm focused in a File Explorer instance that has two different tabs open. I know because I just opened a second tab. If I want to move between the open tabs, I'm going to do that by pressing Control-Tab. So I'm going to hold down my Control key and press Tab, and listen to what my screen reader says.
Items view multi-select list box. Not selected animals not checked. 7/27/2026 4:24 p.m. file folder.
So I'm focused now in my test folder on my Animals folder. If I press Control-Tab again,
Amy-Vidby. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Archive not checked. 5/18/2026.
this is my default landing page. I can have many open tabs in my File Explorer. There are a lot of advantages to having multiple tabs open. I'm going to close this default tab by pressing Control plus F4.
Close test folder. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected animals not checked.
Now I only have one tab open, and this is my test folder. If I press Control-Tab to try to move to another open tab, nothing happens. And that's because I don't have another tab open in this instance of File Explorer. That's important to know. Here's what's very interesting about this option. It helps us to organize our folders by having multiple tabs open. What's really nice is that you can have a different folder open in the other tab. I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to open the Dogs folder in my Animals folder in this test folder. So I'm going to select Animals by pressing space.
Space checked.
Enter to open it.
Enter. Animals. Items view multi-select.
Press M to open mammals.
Mammals not checked. 2 of 2.
And enter.
Enter. Mammals. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Cats not checked.
Now here's where it's going to differ a little bit. I'm going to go down to the dogs folder. And instead of opening it, I'm going to open my context menu.
Dogs checked. 2 of 3.
I'm going to press either my applications key or Shift F10.
Application cut Control plus X. Copy Control plus C. Rename F2. Share. Delete. Open Enter. Open a new tab. 2 of 15. Alt followed by B.
I pressed the down arrow to navigate down to open a new tab. I'm going to press Enter here.
Enter. Cut Control leaving menus. Items view multi-select list box. Dogs checked.
I silenced my screen reader. It doesn't sound like it did anything, but listen to what happens if I press Control Tab to move to another open tab.
Dogs. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Labrador not checked. 7/27/2026.
Now I'm going to press Control Tab again to move to my other folder.
Mammals. Items view multi-select list box. Dogs checked. 7/29/2026 8:15 a.m. file folder. 2 of 3.
Now you might recall that I had a file called Schnauzers in my test folder. I'm going to go back to my test folder. I can either do that by using Alt left arrow or Alt up arrow. Either one will work.
Alt left arrow. Animals. Alt left arrow. Test folder. Items view multi-select list box.
I'm focused on my test folder. Now I'm going to press S for Schnauzer.
Schnauzer not checked. 3 of 4.
Now I'm going to cut this to my clipboard by pressing Control plus the letter X or X-ray.
Cut.
Now I'm going to move to that dogs folder by pressing Control Tab to move back to that other open tab in File Explorer.
Dogs. Items view.
And now I'm going to press Control V or Victor to paste.
Pasted. Schnauzer checked. 2 of 2.
So I'm located in this dogs folder and I've pasted Schnauzer. It says it's the second item in that folder. Because this is a new tab and it opened from my landing page, if I pressed Alt left arrow, it would take me back to my test folder. I don't want to do that. I want to go to the folder that contains this dogs folder, which is mammals. So I'm going to press Alt up arrow.
Mammals. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Cats not checked. 7/29/20. Cats checked. 1. Dog. Cats checked.
So I use my up and down arrow to ensure that my cats folder was checked. I'm going to open that.
Enter. Cats. Items view multi-select list box.
Now I'm going to go back to my other tab open in File Explorer by pressing Control Tab.
Test folder. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Siamese not checked.
Here is Siamese. I'm going to select that by pressing a spacebar.
Space checked.
I'm going to cut it by pressing Control plus the letter X or X-ray.
Cut.
I'm going to move to my cats folder by pressing Control Tab.
Cats. Items view multi-select.
And I'm going to press Control V to paste this file into this folder.
Pasted. Siamese checked. 2 of 2.
If I'm finished with this folder, which I am, I can press Control F4 or Control W to close it. Either one will work. Before we used Control F4, but now I'm just going to do a Control W.
Control W. Test folder. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Plants not checked. 7/29/2026.
So now I have two folders in this test folder. One is animals and one is plants. We've demonstrated how to use our Control Tab to move between open tabs. Moving between open windows to move files works the exact same way, except for you would use Alt Tab to move to the open windows. I chose to use Control Tab to move between open tabs because it's less confusing that way. You're only opening instances of File Explorer when you do that. If you do an Alt tab, you're moving between open windows. There's nothing wrong with that, but you do tend to get other things in your Alt tab cycle that you might not be as interested in using. But it is worth noting and being aware that there's a difference between an open tab and an open window. I'm going to show very quick how to create a new file within a folder. I'm going to open the plants folder by pressing a space to select it and then enter to open it.
Space checked. Enter. Plants. Items view multi-select list box. This folder is empty.
Now, if I was in a file and I wanted to save it to this folder, I would do that from within whatever program I created the file in. But sometimes it's easier to create the file inside of the folder itself. There's really no difference in between, but sometimes some people just prefer to do that because they're sure of where the file was saved, especially if they're more comfortable working with File Explorer than working within Word to save a file to another location. Like I have said before, there are multiple ways to do things in Microsoft Windows. And honestly, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just the way that you are the most comfortable with. I'm going to create a Microsoft Word document in this plants folder. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press Alt to navigate to the menu bar.
New button collapsed. 1 of 10. To activate, press space bar.
You've heard that the new button is in focus. If it weren't, I would use my arrow keys to place it in focus. But it is, so it's fine. So we're going to press Enter.
Enter. Folder 1 of 11. To move through items, press up or down arrow.
You can create a lot of different file types here. The first one is folder, but we learned that we could do that with a shortcut. This is just another way to do this. I'm going to use the down arrow until I hear Microsoft Word.
Shortcut 2 of 11. Microsoft Access Database 3 of 11. Bitmap image 4 of 11. Microsoft Word document 5 of 11.
I'm going to press Enter here.
Enter. Leaving menus. Edit. New Microsoft Word document. Edit. New Microsoft Word document. Type in text.
Focus is on the new document that has the default name highlighted, which is New Microsoft Word document. As before, in previous videos, we can just type over this name with whatever name we want. This is a plants folder, so I'm going to give it a plant name. So let's call it Rose. And press Enter.
Rose. Enter. Items view multi-select list box. New Microsoft Word document checked.
Now I have a new file here. I could open it and edit it and do whatever I wanted, just like with any other file. I hope this has been helpful in giving you some ideas on navigating and using the File Explorer. I hope this video has been helpful for you. Thank you so much and have a great day.